Well, hey, we're live.
We are live. And I can count
Episode
7. I can count to 7.
Oh, well, that's good. When are we gonna stop counting?
Never, I hope.
Oh, that's good. Okay. All right. I was just wondering if there's a time where you can't count anymore. Welcome back to JKMoto. I'm Easton,
I'm Cole.
and we're here to talk about motorcycles. This week we'll be covering Moto GP in France. I think we have a lot to cover, and so we're planning on just an entire episode about that. And then next week, stick around because we'll be talking about race leathers and why you might be spending too much money.
Right.
So let's go ahead and get into it.
Yesterday at one point, I was in sixth.
Easton, how are you doing today?
Do you want an honest answer?
Yeah, I want an honest answer.
Do you want like today right now or just today in general?
Well, I think we'll get into some of the general of how your day's going, but you had to work on the Lord's Day, unlike me. So
yeah. Well, so I woke up excited, right? I was like, work started at 8 and the race was at 8, and I was like, man, I'm gonna miss it, but I'm gonna get home. I'm gonna watch it. It's gonna be great. I got my flag flying outside. Yesterday was a pretty good day, and I'm upset. My day has been ruined.
I figured before we get into all that Moto GP, let's banter a bit.
Okay.
So
I'm ready.
There's a game me and you like to play.
Uh-huh.
It's called Your Team, My Team.
I remember the game.
Yes. And for those at home that don't know what Your Team, My Team is, me and Easton come from entirely different generations. Obviously, he's much older than me, but we
okay.
But the game goes like this. When and we've talked about it before, but for those who haven't heard, there's a particular Harley guy out there that is, you know the guy. Easton likes to point at those and say, your team. But there's some squids out there that have their own problems, and I like to point at Easton and say, your team. So I just passed a truck 30 minutes ago.
A truck. Okay.
A Chevy Silverado.
Uh-huh.
And as I was coming up on it, it had a license plate frame. You know the type. It was chrome. And it had skulls in every corner.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay.
And, I was on the Husky, so I was blindingly fast.
Right. Yep. That is
so
how
I had a hard
bike
time
is.
reading if it said live free or die or, ride hard and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I had a hard time seeing if it had any of those catchy catchphrases. But as I passed the truck, it had a giant decal on the side of a skull.
Okay.
And I seen this it's just a black like outline skull thing.
Mm-hmm.
And as I got up close, as I was passing the truck, I was like, man, if Easton was here, he'd say my team. But as I got closer and I looked at that skull, its eyebrows were dragons. My team or your team?
Eyebrows were what?
Its eyebrows were dragons. It was a skull with dragons for eyebrows.
I don't know.
It was tough.
I have no idea whose team that is.
Yeah, his windows were tinted, so I didn't get to see him. But I have no idea how he, beats the people off of him.
There's probably a good reason for the window tint. Who knows what it would have looked like inside there? I think you're assuming a lot of things that you should not be assuming
in today's world, or just in general.
I'll just leave it at that. We don't need to.
Okay, fine.
Don't need to go too crazy there. That's interesting. Dragons for iris. So when you said dragon, I was like, what? They're like dragging on the ground or something. I was like,
no, like fire breathing dragon,
but still a skull. Maybe he's just playing at both teams. Maybe he knows. He listens and he knows. Speaking of listening and knowing, let me go ahead and just wanted to throw this out there. We have stickers. We're not selling them yet or shipping them, but they will be at TrackDay Circus. So once again, mark your calendars, July 2nd and 3rd in Utah at UMC. Don't just mark your calendars. Go buy some tickets. Bring your track bike, bring your friends, bring whatever. and come join us out there. Either show us that you're subscribed, we'll give you a sticker, or subscribe when you get there and we'll give you a sticker. And come say hi. We'd love to have you out there.
Yeah. I would also argue no need for a bike. Come on out and participate in there's a lot of events going on, at least in the after hours after the track goes cold. Come watch the bikes and then participate in the events, the after party, if you will.
Absolutely. And I would assume there would be someone maybe, renting a bike, or you could at least do a ride on back, or wherever the day might take you. Come out and enjoy. So
come hang out. It'll be a good time.
Well, are you ready
No,
to
I have
dive
one
in?
more banter.
Oh, okay. All right.
One more from your team.
Oof.
So this is motorcycle related, but as you know, I'm a little late getting here today because I had to go perform a rescue mission for a friend of mine.
All right. I did hear that.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, I'll remind everybody I'm in Utah. I need to do a little more research because my understanding is it's legal to lane filter in Utah.
At the red light, right?
At a red light.
Yeah.
You can't lane filter like California, unfortunately, but it is legal to, if traffic comes to a stop at a red light, you can move to the front of the line.
Right.
In between the cars. I don't see many people doing it. And so it's a little uncomfortable at this point, but I was in a hurry today.
Okay. Yeah.
So I just had my first 3 experiences on a one-way trip. And one of those happened to be in front of a officer of the law.
Okay.
And it must be legal because I'm still here. I made it on time.
Didn't say anything to you?
He didn't say anything. No birds, no nothing. But speaking of your generation.
Oh boy.
You know that rescue mission.
The older generation?
Yeah, your older generation.
Okay. Yep.
Old soul. So some 19-year-old kid was nice enough, and I don't want to make fun of him. I don't want to make fun of him because it's good to be a good Samaritan. But I arrived on the scene, and what I would guess a 19-year-old showed up, and he said, "Can I help you? I'm a mechanic."
Ooh.
And I said, "Really?" I said, what can you tell me? And he goes, "Do you know how to put a rim on a truck? Because they're hub centric and it's really important that you get them straight." I said, "Okay." Proceeded to back up, and then he did it all for me. While 2 grown men stood there and watched this 19-year-old kid go do it all. And I asked him, I said, "Where do you work? What shop do you work at?" And he says, "Oh, down at the Grease Monkey." So he's an oil changer.
Well, I mean, that doesn't make him not a mechanic.
Well, I guess, but I mean, I appreciate it. But that was your generation, so maybe the generation behind your generation they're more helpful than your generation.
Maybe.
So,
I just can't help. Have you seen? I just have to bring this up. Have you seen the movie Need for Speed?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a scene in there, right, where they're showing off the car that they just built, and then one dude's walking around all the ladies, and he's like, "Hey, do you like that car over there? We built that. We're mechanics. I'm a mechanic." And that's anytime anyone says that, that's what I think of, because the ladies are then just very uninterested because clearly he's not quite at their level,
right,
money-wise. So just had to point that out. Anytime that phrase is put out, that's what my brain automatically goes to for whatever reason. So
before we dive, I know we skip over the Moto 3 and the Moto 2 all the time.
Yep.
But I wanted to give you an opportunity to maybe put your foot in your mouth again.
Okay.
I'm assuming you haven't watched the Moto 2 race because you were so pissed off at the Moto GP race that you probably you're done for the weekend.
Oh, it had a lot more to do with the amount of time I had between this filming and me getting off work, but also that. No, I did see a certain Instagram clip posted by a certain Instagram page, which JKMoto has an Instagram page. Just throw that out there real quick. At JKMoto Podcast. Go ahead and go follow us. That's where we'll be putting our updates, and I like to share motorcycle related reels on there. So I find them entertaining.
I think it's an entertaining page for sure. So you've been a little hard on the American riders in the past.
Yes. Yep.
And so I wanted to come to you today and be like, look at this. That tough love you gave them, it's really worked. It's really worked. So Sean Dillon Kelly was P3 at one point in qualifying.
Okay.
He was in the rain. Apparently he's got some rain legs on him.
Okay. All right.
So he was P3 and the excitement was building.
Right.
The excitement was building. He ended up not making Q2, but for most of Q1, he was in the top 4. So there was some sparks, right? There was some sputtering. And then we made it to the race. And the Moto 2 race, the other American racing guy, Rory Skinner, he crashed. So
I mean, we don't care. I won't say we won't care. We don't care, but he's not American. right? Despite being on the team. So,
well, as you know from the Moto GP race that we'll talk about, the Moto 2 race was also a race of attrition.
yeah, I did hear about that.
And some big scary wrecks. So in Moto 2, there was a 3-bike crash that brought out a red flag where you had bikes sliding across the track, other bikes running over them and flipping. Real scary moment, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's the one that I saw. So
all of those crashes that happened were all ahead of Sean Dillon Kelly. I mean, there might have been some crashes behind him, but for the most part, the attrition all happened ahead of him. Good.
Right.
Good, right? It's good.
Yeah, I guess.
So the boy climbed all the way to 15th. He was sitting in 15th, which is the last point scoring position in Moto 2.
Mm-hmm.
And Sam Lowes, who had crashed earlier in the race before the red flag and was able to start again, passed him on the final lap to take the last point scoring position. And Sean Dillon Kelly is still pointless in Moto 2. Has not brought a point home yet. I mean, I'm not just trying to be mean, but man, it's got to be hard. It's got to be hard in their situation. But whoever's running that Instagram page, American Racing, they can put a positive twist on anything, I've decided. They have some of the most positive posts on all of Instagram.
Yeah.
You know, they can finish dead last and say, lap 2 of section 4, chapter 15, we were 0.1 second faster than we were last year.
There you go. Positive improvement.
I'm rooting for them, but
I want to, and I don't want to just talk bad on the current American racers, right? That's not my goal. I don't want to just say like, yeah, these guys are not good and no reason to watch. They suck anyway. That's not my goal. My goal would be to encourage someone else that thinks they can do better to get over there and do it, because we've fallen off we've missed the mark for years now. America used to, and I don't have any research right now to back this up, but I'll do it if you guys want. I'll do all the research and figure it out. But as far as I've known, America used to do pretty well in MotoGP.
So that was back when I was a young kid. And yes, it was. MotoGP was ruled by Americans and Australians.
Right, and I understand that from my understanding anyway. That's because we were big in the flat track, and the flat track had bikes that would buck and bronc and move all around you, and MotoGP at that time was pretty untamed. I mean, so that's where that comes from. But, where are we at? Why can't we have someone over there? Why can't we represent and have someone in the top and doing well enough? I don't even need a championship win. It would be great, but I don't need that. I would just like to watch the race every Sunday and cheer for a dude simply because he's American and he's worth cheering for. Those are the two things I need, right? And when he comes to America, I'll buy the flag, I'll buy the shirt, I'll buy the hat. I'll buy everything because why not? It's an American. He's got a chance of winning. He's on his home soil. That's what I want. And so I need someone out there, which is not me, unfortunately. Someone out there to step up and take that spot again. I don't know why. I haven't quite figured it out yet. I don't know. I understand that it's a rough life traveling all over the world all the time, barely being able to be home, and it's just a completely different game. But there's got to be someone that can do it. So
I'm putting my hope in what's that gentleman's name? Max Toth? Is that his name?
That is him. Yes.
I'm putting my hope in him.
That would be. I mean, that's not a bad guy to put your hope in. As of right now, it's looking pretty good.
So he's racing over there now on a OnlyFans.
Yeah.
American Racing, looking bike.
Right.
But he's not old enough to race yet in Moto 3.
Okay.
So I think he's doing 1 year in anticipation of going there next year. So
okay.
I'm hanging my
Max Toth, I always get him a little mixed up with the Sport Bike Track Gear kid, which is Max Van.
Yeah, not Max.
But Max
Van.
Toth is the one that we saw at Thunder Hill.
Yep.
Which made everyone look like they were standing still. So
laying a whooping on everybody on a 600.
Yep. So and that was, I think it was an R6 that he was on that day. I don't remember exactly, but it was quite the show. That was good.
Yeah.
So
we got the opportunity to talk to his dad for quite a while he was out on track. That was a nice conversation.
Yep. No, it was just insane. I remember watching him up on the hill, just over people, under people, over people again. And impressive riding in A group, right? And I'm out there in B group barely keeping up. And I'm like, man, who is this guy? So yeah, definitely worth a follow, and I guess let's hope for good things. So
Yeah, that's my hope. Cameron Bobier didn't get the call, so you didn't work hard enough for me. You were supposed to help me make that happen. He didn't get the call to go race BMW in World Superbike.
yeah, I think I want to say I saw that somewhere.
So
But
they put a Spaniard on there.
okay.
I think he's that particular gentleman. I don't have his name right off. He apparently races a BMW in the Spanish Championship.
Mm-hmm.
So he already had some experience with BMW as well, and I think he might be leading the Spanish Championship.
Okay.
Don't quote me on any of that, but they brought him over. He did nothing. They actually took a former champion that has come back and was racing a Kawasaki this year.
Mm-hmm.
He spent most of the time this year in the pits with a broken bike because the team can't quite get it together. BMW. He used to ride for BMW. BMW reached out to him and said, "Come get on this bike until this guy's healthy, and we'll buy you out of your other contract." And he said, "See ya, Cowie." So added another has-been. We'll see how he does. Cam was the right choice. I still stand by that.
Yeah. I'm excited to watch Moto America throughout the rest of the season, I guess. Not just because Cam's back, but Josh Herron's up there again now. And that Ducati and that BMW definitely have something to show Yamaha this year. So not to take anything away from Jake Gagne. I think he's still going to do pretty amazing, but I think it'll be a little more excitement.
He's still a man to beat.
Yeah. Yeah, but it should be less runaway, which will be nice.
Yeah, well, as good as the last race was in Atlanta, you still didn't have any Cam Peterson. You know,
true.
He was out early, so he wasn't up there in the mix. I mean, I think it's only going to get better.
So actually, that reminds me. I don't know if we want to peg this as correction corner or not, but
not without a good analogy.
Well, that's why I was like, I don't know. We'd kind of, it's not really.
You gotta have a lead up if you're going to do correction corner. That's the rules now. We have unwritten rules. I might send you a copy.
A copy of unwritten rules.
Yeah, figure that out.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, wasn't last week, 2 weeks ago, because it was prior to Ken Hill. We were talking about how that Road Atlanta race was quite possibly the best superbike race of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And I made an argument that the 2015 Moto GP Australian race was better.
Mm-hmm.
I stand behind that. And I did bring two friends over that have not watched Moto GP or Moto America, are not super familiar. They don't mind racing events, but they're not up to date. And unfortunately for you, they both agreed with the MotoGP one being better. Now, I will say we watched Moto America first, and they both did say that it could be, they both gave me a pretty good opinion. They're like, no, I definitely thought the MotoGP was better, but I think it could be because after watching the first one, I kind of knew what I was looking for. I knew what made something exciting and just kind of different aspects like that. So take that for what it's worth, but their end opinion was that the MotoGP race was better. Both good races, but the MotoGP race was a little better.
Well, I tried doing the same test, but my guy didn't get back to me. So if he's listening, he's in trouble.
Good to know. All right.
One more thing before we get too far into MotoGP. I want to talk about the track before we get into the results.
France.
Okay. Let's talk about biases. What do we hear when they go to COTA?
I don't know. Terrible pavement.
Bumpy.
Yeah.
Terrible pavement. All the riders crash because they have to go there. It's, it's not up to standards. It's blah, 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 right?
Yeah. Yep.
So what happens when you lose as many or more people at the Bugatti circuit?
It's not the condition of the track. It's just the track layout, How many Hondas have you seen go down in that corner in that same way?
The announcers today are like, it's the rider's fault. It's
Yep.
at COTA it doesn't matter if somebody pukes in their helmet, which may or may not have happened. It doesn't matter if that happens. It's the track's fault.
Yeah.
But when they're in Europe, those tracks can do no wrong.
Yeah.
I've started to cue into that and pay attention, and it's driving me nuts. If a track's within Europe, it's a holy sacred ground. It can do no wrong. The most negative thing they will say about the tracks is they were built in a different time and they don't have room to make the runoff that they may or may not need. But these are amazing, wonderful tracks. And for the most part, they are. Don't get me wrong, but
yeah. Well, and I think what's kind of funny is this year they weren't complaining about COTA being so bad necessarily on pavement. They were complaining about being different types of pavement everywhere because COTA went out and tried to fix it.
Right.
Like, well, the
Well-
riders don't know how to ride because the pavement changes in every sector.
Well, that brings up another point along those same lines. Is they're blaming the weather. It's too cold. It's too hot.
Yep.
It's too whatever. And Coda, the wind was blowing sideways. You know, they're doing. How fast were they doing? You said it.
What 219, I think it was on the back straight.
With wind hitting them in the side, and the guy goes down, and they're like, track.
Yep.
Like, no, maybe the arrow took off when the wind gust hit him.
Wings actually turned into wings. Yeah. Well, and I got tired today. They were interviewing someone. I think it was Yamaha with Quartararo, and they're like, yeah, they just always riding the bike on the edge. Always riding the bike on the edge. You're going to have these issues. You're going to have these issues when you always have to ride the bike on the edge. That's your freaking job. That is the job of a professional motorcycle racer. I don't care, Moto America, World Superbike, British, Australian, Moto GP, whatever it is, your job is to ride that bike at its edge, right? Yep. And then the person that can get closest to that is going to win. And we've had the argument with Ducati, maybe having a bike that is obviously better and makes not as good riders look better. But I'm kind of getting tired of that because we've got Marc Marquez coming out from, which, sorry if you weren't ready to jump into Moto GP, but I'm diving.
Take it away.
But he's coming out on a bike that is less superior and terrible. And, whatever they want to keep saying about it, even though Honda's doing, pulling everything they possibly can and putting it in there for him. And then he's riding it. Everyone else is wrecking out. Can't even make it into Q2. And he's riding it. Right. I don't want to go talking bad about Quartararo yet because I'm not sure how I actually feel about it. But I am just kind of getting tired of these excuses of like the bike just can't. He has to push that so far to the edge. Like, what do you think that the dudes on the Ducatis are really just sitting at the front, not pushing it? Like they're just hanging out up there? No, everyone's obviously pushing it. I mean, you can watch clip after clip from today. People are making moves.
So I agree with you 80% of the way, which is pretty much just agreeing with you. But I just want to point out, I do get that, that's true in Supercross. That's true in, all these sports sometimes. And that's true when we're on the track. Sometimes you're, pushing at the top level, maybe outside of your own business. You're at 110.
Right.
You don't have no business being there. The longer you're there at that 110, the more likely something bad's going to happen or you're going to crash. I understand exactly what you're saying and agree with you that they're racing. So you are pushing. You should be pushing the whole time. To agree with you, I feel like the riders sometimes when they're talking like that, I just want to say, we're not here to watch a parade. Yeah. You guys parade around for 26 laps. And then on the 27th lap, let's all hurry and, give it that 110 and find our last positions. It should never be a parade. Right. But I do acknowledge that there's different levels of, riding at 100% or just a touch under 100.
And again, I didn't want to just come out and be pissed off and be like, no, everyone is actually just terrible. But I'm just starting to get a little tired of how much we're blaming the bikes this year.
I understand because let's talk about all we heard in the off season leading up to the season. All we heard is that KTM was junk. That's all we heard.
Yep.
And people regurgitate those things. So every other podcast, every other whatever, you're just repeating the stuff you heard. So the announcers all kind of key into that and they start talking about KTM's trash. KTM comes out, they're not trash. Wow. And now they're hurrying switching that. I feel that there's got to be at least some of that. Like, how many of them announcers know, is a Honda bad or is it perfect for Mark? I don't know, but they don't either. And so they all just start regurgitating. Is Yamaha really a bad bike or Fabio scared in his head and he can't go fast anymore? I'm not saying that's the case. It's just they don't know that either.
Yep.
So I get frustrated when, exactly like you said, Mark can come out and ride that bike. So does the bike need to change or do those other riders need to have more talent? Do they need to find more riders that fit a Honda? Which is the right thing to change? And
well, and I would argue that to stay on Hondas and Marks, everyone should know. If you don't know, I'm a huge Mark fan. Well, let me just put this out there real quick. Q2, I don't know if you're paying attention, but he threw down a 64-degree lean angle and carried it. He's
pretty sure
stacking them up. He holds the record.
So what angle is this?
90.
90. I think he did a 390s. I think he did 390s during the weekend.
Okay. All right.
Maybe 4?
No, it wasn't that bad.
Well, what a great race.
It was a very good race.
I didn't like the results any more than you did.
Yeah.
But what a good race. Where do you start with that race?
I don't even know. I mean,
Well, give them. Let's start backwards this time. Who won?
Bezzecchi came out and won, which is great because that puts him, well, great for him. Puts him 1 point behind Bagnaia in the championship. So moved him back ahead of Brad. We had Brad down in, let's just do a quick overview. Brad finished, Brad finished 6th. I thought it was 10th. Forgot about the people that didn't finish in the end there. So that moved him down into 3rd. Bagnaia is still in 1st for the championship, even though he DNF'd. Quartararo finished 7th. Aleix finished 5th. Augusto Fernandez.
Awesome ride.
Where did that come from?
I like it. The team said they weren't surprised, but they're required by law to say that. They were pretty excited.
I don't know how they want to be surprised.
So look at that top. So give us the rundown. Top 6.
Okay, Bezzecchi in 1st, Martin 2nd, Zarco 3rd, Fernandez in 4th, Aleix Asparagus in 5th, and then Brad Binder in 6th.
One more. Sorry.
And Quartararo in 7th.
So if you look at that top, who's the best bike on the grid? 3 Ducatis across the top.
Yep.
No factory Ducatis on the top. 3 Ducatis though, right? And you could argue if Mr. Asparagus wasn't in there throwing it down, there's 3 KTMs, one of which, or there should have been at the end of that race. Sorry.
Yep.
But if you look at that race, throughout the whole race, the top 8, it's Ducatis, it's KTMs, and there was a Honda in there. Don't calm down. Calm down. Keyword was.
Yeah.
I hope everybody noticed what name didn't get mentioned when he listed off those 7.
2 names. Well, don't forget your boy. Don't forget your boy. It wasn't any earlier.
Hey, you like him too. Just because I'm hurting your heartstrings don't mean you got to pick on Jack. Okay.
All right. Well, I think that one cracked me up too. The commentators were talking about how, he has no research on this bike and blah, blah, blah. I do think he made a mistake with his front tire choice, which was because he took a medium yesterday and it didn't really work. So he went soft. I think that had something to do with it because the whole time he was sitting there in 1st, I was just wondering. I was like, is it gonna, I kept wanting him to show the tire choices because I forgot if they said it or not. And I was just like, is that gonna hurt him in the end? And sure enough, it did. Not only, before the wreck, take the wreck out of it, he was dropping places. So I will chalk that up to tire choices for the most part. And he came out and said he made a mistake, whatever.
Jack's killing me.
Yeah,
he's killing me. I love the effort. I love the effort, but as you mentioned, he crashed out of the sprint race. Wrong tire choice.
Yep.
Or possibly the right tire choice, but pushing too hard too early.
Yep.
But he crashes out of that race. Okay, it's only half points. We're okay, Jack. We're okay. Let's go to the race. Let's redeem this. Crashes out of that race. I know he was frustrated because he had fallen back some. He mentioned after the race today that his mistake, but he had hit a curb. He said he had ran wide onto the curb, which made him. But man, how much happier would I have been if he would have came out of there with, say, a 4th and a 7th?
Yeah.
I mean, we're still fighting for a title. We're still in this. But instead, we got 2 DNFs, no points on the weekend, a track that he loves.
He did very well in qualifying, honestly.
Absolutely. P1 and Q, position 1 in P1.
Yep.
Second, I believe, in P2.
I think so. Yep. I mean, up there. Yep.
Yeah, so he made it into Q2, and Jorge Martin, or no.
Marini.
Luca Marini threw in some crazy lap.
Out of nowhere.
So we kind of glossed over the sprint, but if you got that right there again, let's top 3 in the sprint.
Pull it up real quick.
Make sure we don't misspeak. No more correction corner analogies.
Top 3. You want top 3?
Top 3.
Martin, Binder, Bagnaia.
Okay, the race, top 3. I know we've already went over that, but just as a refresher.
Race. Bezzecchi, Martin, Zarco.
So I wanted to go through that because we need to explain how we got there.
Yeah.
So the sprint race was a good race. Excuse me. The sprint. You're supposed to correct me now.
Oh, we said we're just calling it a race.
Oh, okay.
We keep saying we're going to say things, and then we repeat and we're like, oh, we're not supposed to do that. No, we already said we're calling it a race because it's scored. It's a race.
All right, fair enough.
They're not. At
my young age, I forget things. Sprint race was a good race. Other than Jack crashing, was unfortunate for me.
Yeah.
But overall, it was clean. It was tough. There was good passing, good race.
Oh yeah, I had good hopes for the weekend.
Yeah, nobody had anything for Jorge.
Yeah, not really.
In that race, nobody had anything for him.
Yep, I'll give you that.
Yeah, he was gone, and being the fan that I am, I didn't give it to him until he crossed checkers because he's pretty famous for blistering away from everybody and throwing it in the dirt.
Yep.
That didn't happen. Good for him. He's the winner. But now moving on to the race, we had that setting. I felt like Jack, that was a one-off. That was a mistake. He's going to correct it. Jack's got a good chance going into Sunday. Everybody but Fabio had a good chance. That's how I felt going into that race.
Yeah, it's funny you mention it. I didn't necessarily coin that as feeling that, but when you say it like that, I'm like, yeah, no, yep, that checks out. Yeah.
They're in a bad place. Whether it's him, the bike, they're in a bad place.
I don't know. Yeah.
So going into the race kicks off. Which crash happened first? Which was
Vinales and Bagnaia.
What do you think about that? Having watched it, I mean, I watched the replay 30 times. I wanted to have my own opinion. What say you?
So I watched the replay the first time they played it, and at first, when it happened, I was like, man, why is he getting so mad? That didn't look like anything. And then I watched the replay, and I was like, oh, totally Bagnaia's fault. Then I watched the replay again later, and I was like, man, I don't know. Do you want to watch it real quick?
Yeah, let's hit it.
All right.
Because I was the reverse of that. I said totally Maverick's fault. And then when I watched it again, I said, well, maybe it was Pecco.
Right. All right. We'll go ahead and watch it. It is 1 minute and 6 seconds.
Fabio Quartararo has lost place to Aleix Spargo, Anthony Gianantonio.
Oh, contact! Vinales and Bagnaia
has gone down. Vinales and Bagnaia caught up in a tangle together, and Pecco Bagnaia on the outside has been cleaned out.
So I just want to say real quick, the angle that you watch it in is so important because it's all these different angles that I'm like, I don't know anymore. And this is my first time rewatching it since the race. So take that for what it's worth.
By Vinales. They can't believe it. Head in hands there.
This is my favorite.
Yeah. Well, we need to pick the bones out of this one because quite clearly they've got a difference of opinion. Now, hang on, steady on, boys.
It's into the right hand. Vinales has already gone past Bagnaia.
I kill it. So
together, as they then Vinales coming from that.
So a couple things there. Did you see the laps leading up to it? Maverick had made some pretty aggressive passes to get to Bagnaia.
Yeah. Well, and they pointed it out. They were talking about it. They're like, this is the racing we wanted to see. And I was like, it is. Yeah. Oh, this is awesome.
We agree. The stewards don't, but we agree.
Yeah.
So he made some aggressive passes to get to where he was, which was great. I mean, I was like, man on fire, right?
Right.
But then when he got there, I mean, he passed Bagnaia. Bagnaia did exactly what we want. He fought back in the next corner. He got the position back, but then Maverick ekes back out in front of him. I mean, we're just getting this back and forth battle. Depending on what angle you watch that from, Pecco might have been in his blind spot or something. But
so I thought the opposite. I thought that Vinales was in Pecco's blind spot, but the first time I watched it, it looked like Pecco came back over on top of him. The second time I watched it, it looked like he came out to Pecco. Either way, they made contact.
So the thing is for those at home, this is in the center of a track. It's not like where this collision happens. It's in the center of a track. They're not on either edge.
Right. Yep.
I mean, there was room for either one of them to move. To me, regardless of the angle, I try to look at all the different angles, and Pecco seems to be on a trajectory. He seems to be on a line, and it is Maverick that moves.
Interesting. Okay.
It's Maverick that makes a move. Pecco's in the spot he tries moving to, but he had a lot inside. He had room outside. He had room on both sides of him before that move. So I know that he's on a particular angle trying to make it through the corner. He's, or a lean angle and these kind of things, but it is really hard to see from the angle. The more interesting thing, even than the crash, for those that haven't seen it, they hit, there's a bump, which sends Maverick wobbling.
Wobbly, not just down, like wobbly at first. That was the weird part.
Yeah. He's got this giant speed wobble. And it looks like that's all it was going to be. You think Maverick's going to go down, and then his bike just careens into Pecco for a second time. A hard hit. It was a pretty hard hit, and it takes them both into the gravel. Maverick's lucky that he got separated from his bike. So he rode that bike. I mean, it looked like he might even save it there for a minute.
Yeah, when it he wobbled, he was still on it.
Well,
It
I mean,
almost
even
looked like
after
he
the
was.
gravel. So Pecco's
Oh,
down.
okay.
Pecco's down, and if you watch, you can play it again with no sound. If you watch Maverick's going through the dirt, he's still upright. He's going through the gravel,
I didn't
and then he
notice
lays
that.
it down. But he's lucky that he separated from the bike, so he didn't have another pole asparagus issue because he hit the wall.
Right.
He ended up hitting the wall, and the bike was close. I
Yeah.
mean, it was right there. Could have been a lot worse. But Maverick walks over to Pecco. Pecco's got his arms up, but he's still pretty much laying on his back. Rolls over to the side. He's starting to get up. Maverick walks over and thumps him in the arm.
Yep.
And only the two of them know what's being said, but we can all imagine. You're stupid and you're stupid back and forth.
Yep.
But he hits him in the arm, which is uncalled for. And then you shouldn't. So I don't care if they beat the hell out of each other. I mean, I'd pay to see it, right? Take the helmets off and go ahead and throw punches. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But at the same time, the stewards aren't going to like that, right?
Yeah, I'll give you that.
But he hit him in the arm and
should not.
He thumps his arm. Pecco keeps his cool, I think, and starts getting up, and he thumps him in the back of the helmet.
So I don't
watch it again.
All right.
Bring it up.
I wouldn't say keeps his cool.
Well, he doesn't. After it takes till the second hit.
I think he was already chewing him out.
Oh, and I'm sure they were yelling at each other. I guess I don't mean it that way.
Let me get back to where. All right, I'll go ahead and cut sound. Comes over, says, "What?"
Punch him in the arm.
He's talking.
Yelling at him. They're yelling at each other.
See?
Thumped him in the helmet while he's trying to get up.
Yeah, but that's after Bagnaia, said, "Whoa, you, whatever he was saying there."
I'm sure they said some Spanish and Italian swear words, but
he threw his hand up twice before.
But no,
Maverick
he didn't physically contact him.
No, okay, yeah, but he was definitely egging it on.
I would have more respect for Pecco right now if he would have pulled his helmet off and beat the hell out of him after that. Don't thump me in the back of the helmet.
Yeah.
That would have been a fight for me. No matter how mad you are, don't touch me. You can call me anything you want, but don't touch me.
So racing is racing and fighting is different, but I was like, oh man, I haven't seen that in Moto GP, not in at least a long time. And did you notice they made him ride back on the same scooter?
Yes. What fool's Moto GP must be?
I don't know.
They could have played that up for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. They could have started a rivalry, whether it was real or not. They would have got more fans to tune in. That's what the people want. Is a bad guy. They want somebody to.
The drama. Everyone wants the drama. And
no, we made them sit on the same motorcycle and do kissy faces all the way back.
I just laughed when I saw it come in. I was like, there's two people. That's good. Oh, yep. Sure enough, it is. They put them both on the same bike. As if one of them couldn't have waited. Like, oh.
So they're all good now. As we said, Pecco's crashing out of the points lead. A great spot in the race.
Yep.
Maverick hasn't really got his season going this year, so it's less important. But I'll point out that afterwards, after talking to the stewards and both of them saying how everything was fine, it was a racing incident. There was no penalties, yada, yada. Afterwards, watching the interviews, I know they're two different people and they communicate differently, but Pecco had the professional face on. Everything's fine. There's no problem. And even though Maverick was saying that everything was fine, he wouldn't quite take blame. There was some things he said in that interview that were like, if that's how you see it, or if that's how you see it, then that's fine. Alluding to that he didn't agree that it was all fine. But
yeah. Well, I want to finish this. I think it was a minute total. I want to finish that up and see if we can get a couple other angles. Just for the people that are watching on YouTube, give them a chance to get your own opinion, because I still am not sure, and I understand it got coined as a racing incident, which is great. That's what we want. I think things happen, and it's not always obvious whose fault it was, but I still can't quite figure it out. I want to watch it another time, so go ahead and watch it again. Which maybe with no sound it'll be better. But see, so he's going to come in. He's going to come in underneath. Clean pass. Pecco tries to take it back. Pretty clean pass. But it looks like on that clean pass he came over on top of him. But at the same time, it looks like Maverick might have stood it up too quick. So he comes in, clean pass. And then it looks like he's coming over too quick.
So my take is like I said, he was the bike that was moving.
Mm-hmm.
I think he didn't realize that he was there, so he was jumping to that. They were fight. That's why they called it a racing incident, because they're both fighting for the same piece of track,
Right.
whatever. But normally when they say that, it's like you ran somebody so wide that you ran them off the track. That's
Like someone else we saw.
yeah. There wasn't a penalty for that either.
No, but that was, oh man, that made me so mad.
I didn't understand that either. But hold that one.
Okay, and sorry.
So, just to finish up on the Pecco thing, because your boy Mark's going to come up a lot in this conversation.
Yep.
And I would bring up Mark here. So
Okay.
one thing we didn't mention is in the sprint race, Pecco and Mark were roughing each other up.
Yep.
Or it was more one-sided, but Pecco was being a little roughed up by Mark.
Yep. As one does.
As one does. That's how it happens. But I really think that played a part in the aggressive nature of Pecco today, is the memory of yesterday.
Maybe, but it's funny because, and I might be stealing this from the commentary on the video, but Pecco threw his hand up in the sprint like, hey, man, what? You did the same thing to Jack last week.
Mm-hmm.
It's racing. It's going to happen. Did you go down? If you can put your hand up and say what, then there's no need because you're still on the track.
I agree, but that takes me down a whole nother road. I have a problem with them making rules that, like, the rule coming out of this weekend is if you touch somebody,
Mm-hmm.
that could be a penalty. They basically made it sound like, you can jump in front of somebody, whatever, and if you don't actually touch, then everything's fine.
Right.
But my opinion is maybe the guy you cut in front of is just so good he was able to avoid that.
Right.
And every situation is going to be different, but you can't have like a hard, fast rule. If we touch, it's going to be a penalty, because I don't want to watch that.
I agree. And I feel like the stewards are just being like they're way more involved this year. And again, I think
they're writing rules this year. There are rules now that weren't there before.
Okay.
That's why you're seeing it.
So why though? Is that just because there have been so many more wrecks? Is it because safety?
So the inside track says the stewards are trying to take some heat off of them because they've been getting a lot of it this year. But the stewards are saying, which I kind of believe, but the stewards are saying that rider A is coming to them behind closed doors and saying, hey, I don't want this, and this happening. And this guy pushed me and this guy bothered me and whatever. And then door opens, the next rider walks in, and behind closed doors, he's saying, this needs to change, that needs to change. So that's all fine and good. But when they start handing out penalties, maybe the same rider that was complaining, now he's complaining the other way because it happened to him.
Right.
Now that he got a penalty, he's like, well, wait a minute, you can't give me a penalty. You know who I am?
So they're setting rules so they can just say, hey, this is what it is.
Yeah. So the riders had a big meeting because everybody believes that it's been inconsistent. Was still inconsistent, I think, this week. But there was a meeting with all the riders that wanted to. I would point out, I know you don't normally watch those, but the Thursday, this falls in line, but the Thursday press conference that they have, so they had Bender on, and the media gets the opportunity to ask questions.
Yep.
The media asked, who did he bump last week? Luca Marini?
I think so. I don't remember. I can try and look.
They're like, what about that pass you put on whatever? And he says, what about it? And they said, don't you think there should be a penalty for that and that? And he got so mad, and he just looked at him and he goes, that comment right there is bullshit. And, they're supposed to be all professional. He goes, that's bullshit. And he goes, show me the replay. Show me where I touched him. Show me where I did anything wrong. You show me anything. And they were like, they heard him kind of move the camera. I was like, whoa.
That's good.
Anyway, so that's what the stewards are dealing with, is riders coming in. I mean, I don't know what you're supposed to do. I wish they just leave them alone. For the most part, but then it's just hard because I'm guilty too. When my rider goes down because somebody ran into him, I'm mad. But when my rider runs into somebody else, I'm less mad.
Yeah, you're like, it's just racing. It's good. Well, I will say again, he's going to come up a lot, but the one nice thing about being a Mark fan is, it's going to happen. That's just how he rides.
90 degrees.
Okay. No, we're not.
That's what the 9 in his name is. It should have been 90 rather than 93.
All right. He's got way too much of a record to be throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Way too much of a record. I will say, when you go back and dig deep into his record, he wrecks a lot. but you could say that about almost anyone.
So
Anyone that's riding well.
he always goes and finds the edge. He's famous for that.
Mhm.
You know, in qualifying, he goes and finds the edge and then
Yep.
doesn't pass it again.
Yep.
You know, once he's
Usually.
found it, then logs it and goes and wins the race, knowing that he can't push past this point. So Mark is going to come up a lot, and just so I don't get any haters, I think that MotoGP would be less of a sport without him. So I'm
I
not
agree.
rooting for him to retire, to be gone. I want him there every week for the next 12 years. That'd be great. I don't want him injured anymore. I want him out there. It makes it better. I'm not a Mark hater. I love watching him ride. He brings excitement to it. I partially just like to give you grief.
Oh, I know.
But
I take it so well.
But that brings me to, so that was the first big wreck. So that's how our race starts off.
Yeah, Bagnaia and Vinales.
Yeah,
Since we
Bagnaia
kind
and
of jumped
Vinales.
around a little bit.
That's how this great race starts off. We have this
Yep.
big wreck with points implications, championship implications. Oh my gosh. And then you thought, where can this go? You know, Pecco's out. Now what? And what was the next big crash?
The next one after that was the actual scary one. Especially if you go watch the replays. That one was...
Are we talking about the same guy? I refer to him now as the second most unlucky rider in MotoGP.
Alex Marquez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What has happened to that poor guy's season?
I don't know. Not his fault this time.
It hasn't been his fault
Most of the times.
most of the time.
Yeah.
I mean,
the seasons prior to this, you know, we had our opinions, whatever. But yeah, I actually had hope for him this. I mean, I put him on my fantasy this week.
Me too.
I don't know about you. I had 4 DNFs on my fantasy.
No.
So
I climbed back up to that number 2 spot.
yeah, I've seen that. Anyway, yeah, poor Alex. Scary wreck, honestly. Like the fact that he was stuck in the track. You come by, and I want to say that was Raul Fernandez that barely missed his head.
So
and he was just trying to figure out how to get around a bike off the track, out of the way. Like it was rough.
Luca Marini, did you watch those replays?
Only what
I
they
don't want to
played.
make this the replay show.
No, only what they played during the race.
Luca Marini lost that bike.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was on his shoulder. That bike was gone.
Yeah,
That's not his fault. He's crashing.
Yep.
He's crashing. Somehow he pulled in his inner Marquez and figured out he's Valentino's half brother, so Valentino won't appreciate that comment at all. But inner Marquez stands the bike back up using his elbow somehow.
A little bit, yeah.
No, it came back. It came back when he stood it up. That's why it steered the way it did.
Oh, right. Yeah.
He was back on his tires. I mean, he had saved a giant crash. He's not thinking about anything but saving this crash. He gets it back up. Was very, very impressive that he was able to get the bike back up. But as soon as it was back on its own tires, it decided which trajectory it wanted to go on. And unfortunately for Alex, it was right into the side of his bike.
Yep.
And Alex goes down again.
Yeah, it was. Oh,
they both go down. But
yep. Down, out. I don't know. I got to keep reminding myself that we're only 5 races in. The season goes all the way till November. So there's still like, you know, anything can happen is definitely true at this point. But like, there's a little bit of my brain's like, you know, I'll watch the rest of the season, but I'm going to just kind of erase this one and just call it a test season for everyone because no one's like coming out every week. I'll say Bagnaia is winning the championship and has done pretty well. He's qualified very well pretty much every week. He's won the majority of the races, or at least the most out of anyone. But you can't count him out of the wrecks. He's not pulling a 2019 Marc Marquez, you know, qualifying first every race and leaving everyone.
Oh, it's an exciting season, an exciting sport right now.
Yeah, but it's in such a weird way.
Right? So Mark had nothing to do with that particular crash, although there was a Marquez involved.
Yeah.
That was a scary crash.
I agree. Yes.
And then after that, so Jack Miller led a lot of that race. I won't say a lot, but he led the opening of that race. He led laps.
Well, Mark led it for the bit, and then Jack got him and led it for a bit.
And then after that, they both got picked off.
Yeah, well, that's when Jack started falling back.
Yep.
If I remember right. Because that's what I was noticing, and I was just like, is he gonna... he's Jack. I think he's got the skills to... You know, we talk about him being the guy that can ride anything, but I do really think that soft front tire just kind of killed him.
Yeah, well, let me stick this one in right there. The comment I made at some point was we both say Jack's got the skills, right? He's
Mhm.
kind of you just get the feeling that if you put mopeds out there, he'd be one of the top runners. It doesn't,
Oh, mopeds for sure. Yeah.
I mean, against everybody, right? If you just, whatever
Yeah.
it is. Bezzecchi.
Mm-hmm.
This is the question I'm going to throw at you. Is Bezzecchi the better version of Pecco? And let me tell you why.
Okay.
I've been telling you for a while that Bezzecchi's real. I've been telling you since last year. Watch that
since
guy.
the end of last year. Yeah.
Yeah, he's real. It's not just because he's on a great bike. He's for real. I think he's the better version of Pecco. And part of the reason I say that is because he can be the robot. He can click off the laps. He can just go give me good Ducati, me go good track, me, whatever.
Yeah.
He can do that. But who would win in a race if you added a jump, Pecco or Bezzecchi?
Just period.
If you just added a jump to the Moto GP track.
Oh, if you added a jump. Okay.
If you just added a jump out there on the track and said, okay, you two go race each other, who's going to win?
Probably. Well, do
Bezzecchi.
they know it? Do they know it's there?
Yes. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I just feel like if
Pecco had time to calculate and plan, but if it was just like,
let
hey,
me put,
by the
let
way,
me
there's
put-
a jump in the middle of the track. Have fun.
I've confused you. Let me put this a different way.
Okay.
So
All right.
in my real life, I get the opportunity to travel to Europe quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
We travel through Germany, travel through Austria. Well, they both speak the same language, those two countries.
Right.
They're neighbors. They're
Mhm.
quite similar for an uneducated. You would just think German, Austrian, it's kind of the same thing. You're right.
Okay. Yep.
But the Austrians like to tell me, I've heard it multiple times. The Austrians like to say, oh, we are just a better version of a German.
Okay.
They say that all the time. And you ask them why, and they say it's because we can follow procedures. We can engineer things. We can follow
Right.
procedures.
Yep.
But if something happens and we have to go a different way, we can also change.
Okay. Interesting. I get what they're saying, I guess.
So maybe I'm getting too far out there here, but I'll put that back. Pecco is the German in that scenario.
Yeah.
You've got
I
a
would
game
agree.
plan. I have a fast bike, and I'm going to ride the fast bike you've provided me exactly how it was designed to be ridden, like a computer. I'm going to go out there and play this thing like a video game.
Yep.
But
But you can tell. Watch him race, and he sits behind people for plenty long. He sat in third today for a long time, and I had full confidence that had no one else messed with him from behind, he would have sat there until the last 5 laps of the race. Because he knows full well his bike is quicker. There's no reason to push, and he can just sit there and watch their moves and do all his calculating, which makes him a good racer. Don't get me wrong, I'm not talking bad on him here, but that's the type of guy he is he likes to sit back there and do his calculating and be like, yep, I'll let them fight it out. I'll just stay back here. Even if there's an open spot, he's more likely than anyone else on the track to not necessarily take it if he's confident that he can grab it later.
So you mentioned calculating,
Mm-hmm.
and I would agree, but I would say in that scenario, sitting in third, he is calculating, but if the success percentage is high enough, he would have blown past those guys and then ran away because that's the safer option.
True. Yeah.
But he's calculating, saying it's too much of a risk at this point for me to pass these guys. So it's not that he always sits back behind riders, is just
right.
what I want to point out. If the chance is there, he's going to shoot to the front and leave.
Absolutely.
But he is very calculating.
Yep.
I think that Bezzecchi is also, he has a lot of those same traits, a lot of those same skills. They seem like the same guy some days.
Similar. Yeah.
Except I just feel like if somebody threw one of them squeaking chickens out on the track, Bezzecchi would run over it and laugh in his helmet, and it might cause Pecco to crash because it's unexpected.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think Bezzecchi I'm excited. He's going to do great. I only wish that Enea was still here. Because man, those 3 at the front. I know he's coming. That's another one of the reasons I got to keep reminding myself that the season is plenty long. But yeah, I think Bezzecchi has shown that when he needs to, yeah, he can click on the robot and he can put down good, consistent, fast laps. He knows what his bike can do. When there's no one in front of him, he can go do it. That being said, he's also shown that if he needs to make some crazy move for no apparent reason and force him and someone else out, anyway. No, but he can make crazy moves and get in there, and he's not afraid to do that. And definitely seems more Sendy,
Right.
if you will.
That's a Sandy. I'll go with that one.
All right.
So Bezzecchi. I'm just gonna bounce back and forth on my. do you know the word for friends in Italian?
I should, but no.
Yeah, me neither. Somebody can send it in on the comments.
There you go.
I mean, when Bashanini comes back, there'll be the three amigos. But I got to figure out, the three friends, amigos. I got to figure that out in Italian.
Amigo.
I don't think so.
I thought that's what you did. You just take the Spanish and do the handshake thing.
I think so. Some of it for sure. One thing that's a little sad while we're on Bezzecchi, last thing I'm going to say about him. If I hear one more thing about that non-existent mustache. He said after his last win, he wasn't going to shave. Mm-hmm. He wasn't going to shave his mustache until he won another race. So it's been like 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
He says he hasn't shaved. I can't tell. But he made a comment like, I can't wait till I get back to the truck because I finally get to shave this mustache off. And he was even saying, he was telling Jack in the press, like, I don't know how you do it. And I was going to say, and you never will. Judging from
did Jack keep his beard?
No, he just got the Magnum PI stash going still.
Okay. I know he had the beard at the beginning of the season. I've been meaning to try and pay attention. I just never paid that close. And I never remember to pay attention when it comes up.
He just got the mustache.
Well, before we dive into Mark, because I want to dive into Mark, 120,000 people. No?
Google it.
Okay.
I don't want to go to correction corner. I think there's a 2 at the front of that. What are you talking about? Attendance?
Yep. Attendance. Oh, you might be right.
Yes.
You are right. All right.
You all heard that at home. I'm not just a pretty face in this chair.
Yeah. Sunday's crowd completes the record-breaking event, seeing the Shark Grand Prix of France, hitting a stunning attendance figure of 278,805. Yep. Over 250,000 people.
Didn't point out. I meant to point out here in my notes. First thing, it was the 1,000th Grand Prix.
Yes. Yep. That is insane. That's a lot.
You want to know something more insane? You still got your Google out?
I always have the Google out.
Yeah. Yes. How many races did Rossi race?
Of the 1,000?
It's 300 and something.
Yeah. How many MotoGP races?
He's raced in a third of all MotoGP races. That's how long that man's career was.
It's actually not just coming up nice and easy right now.
It's like 346 or 367.
Well, and he's difficult because he was in so many different classes because he's been around too long. And while we're here talking about Rossi, since you brought it up, let's see. 372.
Yeah, that's more than a third.
Of 1,000. Yep, it is.
It's more than a third of all the races in the history.
So let me talk about that. Let me dive in before we talk about Mark's performance today. Let me talk about why, as you've said, you want him out there for the next 12 years. And I agree with that, but I wanted to back it up. And my reasoning is that numbers wise, he has not caught up to Rossi yet. I think besides qualifying positions, he's always been able to qualify and race well. And Rossi never quite qualified as well.
Maybe didn't need to.
Probably not. Different times, different people.
Right.
Yeah. Mark is 30 years old. And literally the lap before he wrecked.
Did he wreck again?
Yes.
I just wanted you to say it again. Go ahead.
The lap before, I am now upset. The lap before that, I said, look at this man. You cannot tell me this man can't still race. He's going out there on a terrible bike, and he's holding first for a little bit and second for the rest of the race. And he's holding back a Ducati of a man who can put down one-lappers. Not only him, though. Jack Miller, he was swapping spots with. Bagnaia a little bit. During the sprint yesterday, Bagnaia for a bit. The man can still race. Rossi's last few years of MotoGP, I'm going to say it, were kind of almost a disgrace.
He was 40-ish.
he was old, and I was, proud of him for being out there and doing it. But if you look at his performance, it was not there.
Yeah, better than Yamaha's doing today.
Ouch. I'll give you that. But I'm just saying it wasn't there. And that's nothing against Rossi. He was old. He was still racing. But Mark is not at that point. He's had some setbacks. He had a bad wreck. He's had some, I almost wish he took a whole season off. He doesn't need to take another. I hope that Honda can figure something out. I will say it is clear that Ducati still has the acceleration out there. The only place they don't is on the start, where KTM figured some magic out. I don't know. But beyond that, you hit the straight, the Ducati takes off. You can see it every time. And we know there's other good riders out there that are right behind them. They hit the straight, they're gone. Not as bad as it was a couple of years ago, but it's pretty bad. I hope that Honda gives Mark a little more to work with, because it is clear to me that he still has what it takes to put a few more championships on his belt.
Hold it.
Okay.
Devil's advocate. Earlier in the podcast, we talked about we're sick of Yamaha. So let's just assume Fabio's a superstar, which he is.
Yep.
Fabio's a superstar. They're not giving him a bike.
Yep.
Mark gets that same credit. No matter what Mark does. If it's good, it was on a terrible bike. If it's bad, it was because of a terrible bike. He's getting that same luxury, if you will. Neither one of them can do any wrong. It's their manufacturers that are doing all the wrong.
I do agree. And I don't believe that Honda is as terrible. I will say, I don't believe Honda is as terrible as everyone is saying. I don't think Mark necessarily wrecked because he's pushing it so hard and he has to push it that hard. That's his job. He's always done that. Every season he's had some wrecks because he does that. And
let's bring this into a side note while we're talking about that. How many hours of overtime? What do we have? 3 weeks off now or 4 weeks?
3.
3 weeks off? Well, not us, but
I guess it might be 4. June 11th is the next one.
While we're kind of talking about Honda, I want to, what's the over-under on the amount of hours that people at Calix are going to have to work to make more of those frames?
I don't know.
Because Joanne Mir could single-handedly keep a factory busy.
Well, and I don't even know if he was on one, though.
Yes, he was, at least in qualifying. So Joanne Mir, during qualifying, Joanne Mir went out on a regular frame, as did Mark. They both crashed those bikes in P1.
Yeah.
They both crashed those bikes. Their second bike was Calix frames. And the intention was to test them anyway.
Right.
For sure. And they wanted to do it during P1, Mark at least. So they both had to come back and get on those. And their bikes were destroyed bad enough that was basically their bike for the week.
Right.
So my understanding, by the end of qualifying, both of them had decided that was their choice. And so I didn't see anything saying they didn't. My belief is that they both started the race on Calix frames.
Okay. Yeah, I knew Mark did. I just didn't hear anything about Mir, which
it's because he was in last place up until he crashed.
Yep. I don't know.
How do you crash out of last place? He could have just treated it like a track day and done better.
I don't know. I don't even want to get into it. I have no idea. Yeah, it's sad. Well, it's sad when, like, who did we used to talk about wrecking all the time and being just not that good? That's
Alex
been on
Rins.
a Honda.
On a Suzuki.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I was saying more on the Honda side. Nakagami. Poor Nakagami. Seemed to always be putting bikes down. And now he's finding himself. Yeah, he's finding himself upright and in better positions than the two new guys most of the time.
Yeah, not because he's doing anything good other than not crashing.
Yeah.
Staying out of trouble.
Yeah. Well, and it's...
But then to go back to Mark, I know this is the point you want to make, and I'm a big enough guy to say this, but you're absolutely right. I mean, how do you take anything away from Mark? Love him, hate him, whatever. I mean, this is what you're trying to say, right? There's this bike that nobody can ride. It's a terrible bike. Alex is in the dirt. Joan Mir is in the dirt. They're all in the dirt. And then he can come out and just throw that together and have a great race up until the last. But let me point out another thing. I was thinking about you during the race. Jorge Martin, Marc Marquez, back and forth. Modern day Spaniard, old Spaniard.
Yeah.
Ducati, Aero, greatest bike on the grid. Yeah. Crap bike. according to every announcer out there. Crap bike, over the hill, injured, rusty.
Yeah. Yeah.
All those things. And man, he pulled some tricks from pretty deep in the bag
Oh, yeah.
to keep him off of him, to pass him back when he would get past. What a battle.
And his freaking speed in the 6th gear turn. I didn't see another person the entire race that carried speed like that into that turn. And that's not where he put it down.
Nope. But
that is because it looked like everyone was going to get him coming off the straight. And then they all just hit the brakes, and it looks like he never hit the brakes. And he was just like, nah, I'm good. I'll just ride it out. Whatever. Go ahead. You're good.
He said he was riding in that danger zone, right? The whole time, over the edge, having to push. Same argument that Fabio has all the time. Just to be fair here, keep your mark biases out of this. But when he went down, Jorge Martin had passed him, and he had cut back up underneath him, 5 times?
Yeah.
I mean, we're down to the last 2. Yeah, we're down to the last 2 laps of the race. Those guys have been switching spots. It was amazing to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the same one again. Jorge Martin came by him, and he was going to try to jump back up underneath him, try to retaliate. There was a scene in the garage where, I don't know if anybody reported on this, but there is a scene in the garage with Mark in the background, and the announcers were talking over it. They were just like panning through, and you heard Mark and seen him say it in the background, but somebody says, what happened? And he goes, I leaned too far. And yes, you did.
Yeah, that's true.
But if you watch that replay, Jorge Martin's here, comes around the inside, and he's just gonna shoot right back up, and you just watch that tire just a little bit too much.
Yeah.
Just a little bit more, it cried mercy.
Yeah. Well, when I say I hope that Honda gives him a bike, I don't mean that Honda has all this work to do. I just want a little bit more power on the straight with the same handling they already have.
So I want to see a drag race between all of them so you can look up the top speeds on all the bikes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing sometimes. I mean, you look at some of these tracks and Fabio's down 14 miles an hour.
Right.
And you're like, that seems like ridiculous, right? But during that race, one of the things my mind went to a couple times, I feel like the KTM's got the guts to go with the Ducati most of the time.
Yeah.
They've got the horsepower, right? Or whatever it is, giving them that speed. They corner different. They do everything different. But when they're on the straight side by side, those Ducatis aren't really walking them.
I would agree.
Mark was behind Jack for quite a while in that race, and they showed a lot of scenes of Mark following Jack.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that today when they would get on the straight. It's a little hard to tell because he's just behind him, but Jack could get on it. You hear his bike come on. Mark's is right behind that. And Jack would just barely, ever so slightly be pulling on him.
Yep.
But I don't think it was a huge difference. I mean, it was, I'm sure over the course of a race and all those things, but when those two were fighting, it looked like Mark could outdo him on the brakes and make up any small gain he had. I think the power is in the Honda. I don't think it's straight line power that they're lacking, personally. I'd like to see, we need to pull up the speed side by side because I'd like to see, we always, I don't want to make this like Walmart shopping. Just because they say the Ducati's the best don't mean we have to believe it.
Yeah. True.
I mean, the new game they're playing is the Aprilia's a piece of garbage. They can't pass. Aprilia's can't pass in traffic. They've got the same problem as Yamaha. Is Aprilia in the same place as Yamaha? I heard that.
No,
3 or 4
they have
times.
terrible riders.
well, Maverick could pass people, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. And if he hadn't got wobbly, honestly, if whoever went, if the connection hadn't happened, he would have been in third.
If he
fourth,
I don't know if he was riding out of his head. I don't know I feel like he's a great rider.
I would agree
with some underlying issues. And funniest comment I heard from him this week.
Unpredictable.
Funniest comment I heard from him this week. What's his weak point? I'm sorry to keep putting you on the spot, but what do you think Maverick's weak point is?
He's unpredictable, inconsistent.
Right. I would say the starts.
Okay.
Doesn't really matter where that guy qualifies. They always say it's because he can't race with a full tank of gas.
Mm-hmm.
can't race with a full tank of fuel. He always falls back. It's almost guaranteed that he's going to go from 6th to 12th, and then they're going to be talking about him trying to come back through the field.
Right.
Almost every race. He always falls back on a fuel tank or on a full tank. But the funniest thing I heard him say this week that actually I laughed out loud. He said that his opinion is riders need to calm down and they can't fight so hard at the beginning. It's not worth it to fight so hard at the beginning. And
Okay.
I'm like, oh, yeah, that's what you've been doing your whole career.
Yeah.
Maybe you should fight a little harder at the beginning. So he's like, oh, yeah, let's change that rule. We have to take the first lap easy, and then I'll never lose all those spots at the beginning.
That's funny. No passing for the first lap. You must stay in the
We have to have a parade lap. Where you qualify is where you must stay.
Oh man, that'd be ridiculous. I don't know. I enjoy watching him. It was funny, they said on the commentators, we should really get their names, so I stopped saying that. But like, that's the racing we've been waiting for. And I was like, you're absolutely right. I might have said this already this episode, but it was great. No, he was diving in here, pulling out there, late braking. There were, maybe it's just this track is so great for it, but so many spots where you can go inside and you can, if you hold it, as long as you hold it, you can take a pass, and you can make a pass in almost every turn, which seems to be rare anymore. It seems like it's only, 2 turns a track, maybe. And if it's not there, it's not going to happen. So, no, he was doing great. I was enjoying it. And even with the wreck, honestly, I would peg this race as probably in my top 10. And there was a lull in the middle, and I still think the sprint is leading to that or adding to that a little bit. Because I get past the halfway mark, and I'm like, man, how long is this? I look, I'm like, there's 17 laps left, or there's 12 laps left. That's a long race. And I'm like, well, there's no sprint today, so
yeah, I don't think there was much of a lull. I'm not going to put it in my top 10 because I honestly don't love the track overall. Not sure why. It was rated the #1 race last year. Did you know that?
I didn't.
Heard an announcer saying that last year's Le Mans was the #1 rated race of the 2022 season, which was kind of surprising to me. So
I don't even remember it. So couldn't have been that great.
Well, I think Jack did good. He likes that track. That's why it was such a bummer. So it's hard for me to. So that was a great race. It was a good race. It's hard for me to rate it in my top 10 because so many of the big name guys that I was trying to watch were gone.
Right.
For you, I know you got to watch Mark almost to the end, so it was almost in your top 5.
Yeah.
If he would have won, that would have been top 5 for you.
They pulled up the tires at the end. That's what was making me excited at the end was there were a couple laps where Mark was seeming to maybe come back, and he had a hard front where Bezzecchi had a soft front. But Marquez used to always run a hard front.
Yeah, it was kind of typical on Hondas. It's also kind of typical on the KTMs. I think that's why Jack was so adamant about trying to make one work.
Right. Which on this track especially, it makes sense, honestly. They talk about braking zones and all of that, and then I don't want to just repeat what they say, but after you do a little bit of it, can you remember Arizona?
Mm-hmm.
And how hard braking zones are difficult, and that I've never run through a tire or had to worry about that necessarily, but you start to get a feel for what they're saying, and then you look at a track, you're like, oh yeah, okay, I get why that does have the hard braking zones. It's easy to see in the layout. But yeah, I remember back in 2019, Mark would always be on a hard front tire when everyone else might be on a medium or even a soft, and so just kind of had a little bit of memory, a little bit of, okay, maybe the bike's finally working enough for him again that he's going to put his faith in it and put the hard tire on there.
So Mark is a real racer, and not that they all aren't, but he's a real racer. And I seem to recall the last race that he won. Think back, that last race he won. I know it's been a while, but that last race that he won, he went out on soft. And he was the only one. He was the only one that did that. And so nobody expected him to make it past.
Yeah. Yep. Because he pulled through, and I was like, the man can still ride tires that should be unrideable.
Yeah. The problem with rooting for Mark is you have to, every 6 months, you have to re-up. Like, he can still do it because he's been gone for 6 months, and then he's gone for 6 months. I hope
anymore.
I hope he's back for good. I'm not rooting against the guy, kind of, but
No, like I said, I think in my head, partially just because I am a Mark fan, but also just with the way the season's going and Aya not being there, Alex Marquez, I think honestly could show some good potential this year, but he keeps getting knocked out.
right.
And then, Mark's big injury and Miguel got taken out by Mark, got taken out again, then, his first week back. So I think post summer break will be a great season and a good step into next year to see, obviously they try new things every year, but I will say that I think everyone besides Ducati hasn't made too many big changes, but everyone else is like trying different things. Some of them a lot more obvious, like the wings and whatnot. But if you weren't watching the test, Honda not only had a new frame, they had a new scoop on their swing arm.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, it just hit me again. It hits me every time I look closer at their aero. But it's not just to keep the front tire on the ground and the back tire on the ground. It's to keep the bike on the ground in a turn while it's leaned over. Like, it's nuts. And I think there's been more change from almost every manufacturer this year than any other year, maybe.
Yeah. So
At least it feels like it.
So KTM brought in Red Bull F1
Mm-hmm.
to work on their aero. I mean, all bets are off when you start bringing however much that costs, right?
Yeah.
All bets are off. But did you notice Aprilia had the winglets on the forks?
No, I didn't.
So they have
those
new
ones.
winglets on their forks for this race. They had tried it in Jerez, and both riders liked it, so they had that. But they also had that silly spoiler that came back.
Yep.
The 747 wing.
Yeah. When did they have that before?
They tried it once, and everybody laughed, and it was a joke. And now they brought it back. They had it in the race. So
Yeah,
KTM's have went full on piece of square tubing on the back of their tail.
Yeah.
Aprilia actually went with the 747 wing on the back of there, and I think they should ban those just for a safety reason. I'm waiting for one of them riders to come straight off the bike and
get impaled.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think the break will be nice. I hope that Mark is just back, doesn't have any more big ones. I hope that Miguel gets back and Enea gets back.
And Pole, don't forget poor Pole.
I don't care if I hope that he gets better.
Yeah.
I don't care that he comes back. Well,
he's trying to come back from Mugello.
Good for him. I'm
I'd rather have Pole going around there than Folger's coffee.
I do agree with that. Yeah. Well, and I mean, KTM has something to offer. It's working so great for Jack. It's working so great for Brad, and maybe for Augusto Fernandez. So,
interesting thing for you that I heard over the weekend. It's probably a bad time to bring it up for Pedro Acosta.
Okay.
I think we've mentioned before. I know I've talked to you about it. He has a clause in his contract that KTM has to let him go to MotoGP. They have to give him a ride in MotoGP next year.
Okay.
So 2 years on the Moto2 bike. The first year on the Moto2 bike, they didn't even give him the full horsepower. This is his year he's supposed to go win it.
Mm-hmm.
So was 2 years in Moto3. No, 1 year in Moto3, won the championship, moved to Moto2. He's the second coming. He's going to be great.
Yep.
So they say. Today he put it in the dirt from third spot. So in case you hadn't seen that yet.
I hadn't seen that one.
But there was an interview earlier in the weekend, and since all that's come out about his contract, and we've talked about it a little bit, but there's no room at the end at KTM next year.
Yep.
His contract's for next year. So we know how Honda likes to play. If he's the next big thing coming, you could see Honda going after him for Mark's replacement. That's how they've always done business.
Yeah.
Not as immediate replacement, obviously, but, the heir apparent.
Yep. Possibly.
So he confused me a little bit with a comment that he made when he was being interviewed. He got a little smirk on his face, and he said, yeah, he's going to MotoGP. He's going to MotoGP. It's in his contract.
Mm-hmm.
He hopes to be on an orange bike, but he said, if not, I'll go to a red bike. And instantly I was like, whoa, that dude's threatening. That guy thinks he's got enough pull that he's threatening. Like, I'm going
Yeah.
to Ducati, man. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then I realized gases are red.
Yep.
So he wasn't doing what I thought. He's just saying if he can't get on a factory bike, he'll start at a gas. But he's going. But after today's performance from Fernandez, if he can continue that way, he's a rookie this year. So they screwed up last year by not giving their rookies a chance. They fired him after 1 year. So this year, I don't see him making that mistake again. Media-wise, everything-wise. And this guy's showing something. Fernandez is showing something. So let him – it's a long season. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, I agree.
But there's no spot at the end at gas. Who do you fire? Pole, who broke his back and hasn't been able to show anything. I'm sorry, It's not his fault, but he hasn't been able to show anything. He's getting on a little long in the tooth, if you will.
Yeah.
Pole's coming back just to get fired. Pedro's taking that seat.
You think so?
I haven't been right on a single thing I've said, but I'm going to throw that one out there.
All right. Well,
Pole's
place
fired.
that on the rug or under the rug, and I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens. That'll be, I don't know. I want to believe in Augusto for no reason. I mean, he won rookie of the year. So, first race that he did.
He's a good guy. It's the other one that's not good.
What, Raul?
Yeah. He calls himself the people's champion and nobody even knows his name, obviously.
I don't know. The break is going to be June 10th. Let me count the weeks real quick just so we're not making things up. It'll be 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks. It'll be 4 weeks from now before. So give everyone plenty of time to recover, give the teams to, do whatever they want to do and throw new things at the riders.
Grid should be back to full strength as long as Jack doesn't do too much dirt biking. Maybe stay off the dirt bike, Jack.
Honestly, anyone. Every time it feels like someone goes dirt biking. I know Jack's, but he doesn't really. I don't remember seeing too many injuries of him out there.
No, he's a tough guy.
Yeah, but I've seen definitely other people are like, yeah, well, freaking Alex Rins wrecked his road bicycle.
Yep, that's true. A couple
riding
years ago.
Around a racetrack.
Yeah,
like wasn't that the night before the press conference or something?
I don't remember, but riding around the track, he ran into the side of a stationary van.
Yeah. Oh man.
And he was out for weeks.
Yep.
So coming up next week, as mentioned, we've got a podcast coming up to talk about leathers.
Yes. Yep. Specifically American-made custom motorcycle leathers. Custom, not just size, but also print, that I think will have a pretty good wow factor on the price you can get them for. So, and I've been doing some research to look around and figure out, how much better it actually is price-wise.
You can get some of those fancy leathers, right? With like your name on the butt?
Yeah. That's what I meant. Custom print, right? Not just custom sizing.
Print. So do you know there's only one rider I can think of that has his first name on his butt?
I can't even think of one.
I have a calendar. I have this pull-out calendar with all their butts. And
it's an interesting thing to know about you.
Alex.
Well, that makes sense.
There's 2 Marquezes. So you gotta get a custom leather that says Alex. So in case you got a twin brother with the same last name, it's good to be able to have custom leather so that you can, each put your name on the
Well, and also the sizing. I know I think
we'll get into that next week.
Yeah.
Going too far.
All right.
So we got Barber coming up.
Yep, Moto America at Barber Motorsports Park. Yep.
Everybody should tune into that. I'm saying. You watch
Absolutely.
it on YouTube the day after or buy the app as we've discussed previously. But I would highly recommend everybody watch that.
Yeah, Barber should be I want to ride it, so I'm excited to watch it.
Do you have anything motorcycle related coming up in the garage or on the streets or?
No, not really. I think we're gonna start trying to make the channel a little bit more than just the podcast. So we will have some videos coming out, motorcycle related, but I don't have TrackDay Circus is my next big thing. And so I don't have anything on the docket really until then, due to the current status of the Aprilia and then the TrackDay Circus being the trip that it is. So
ask me.
okay. What do you have coming up on the docket?
Next week. Well, actually, while you're listening to this podcast, no, sometime. Anyway, next week, I'm headed over to Europe, as previously mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And I get the opportunity this year. I think I mentioned to you, but I get the opportunity to go to the Red Bull Hangar 7 every year, which is Red Bull's personal museum. It's got a lot of the things from cool things, mostly motorsports related, but not all. The different things they've done over the years. You know, the death-defying feats they've achieved, the races that they've sponsored and won. Always really neat. But this year, for the first time ever, I get the opportunity to go tour the KTM Motor Hall in Australia. Or Austria, not Australia. It's a common mistake. They did it to Jack this weekend, actually. And if you go to Austria, you can buy shirts that say kangaroos are not from Austria or something.
Yeah, there are no kangaroos in Austria. Actually, I had a friend that had a kangaroo flying an Austrian flag tattooed on his arm. So I asked him why I got it, and he said, I don't know, I got drunk and woke up with it. And I was like, okay. Anyway, very besides the point. But yeah, that is exciting. What else is coming up? You kind of mentioned it in the last podcast, but you've got some pretty good motorcycle news.
Which one?
With you and racetracks and a different path of racetracks this year.
Different
or
path.
Racetrack riding, a different type of racetrack riding.
Yeah, so we mentioned it last week, but I qualified, or I finished my NRC license, which is New Racer School, which I want to point something out. Ken Hill last week referred to that as NRS license. Heard multiple people say NRS.
Mm-hmm.
So which is it? I don't know. Somebody out there can tell me. But the sticker in the window of my bike absolutely says NRC. The website actually absolutely says it's the New Racer School, but it's called the NRC. And I've heard a lot of people refer to it as NRS. I'm sure it's the same thing. Anyway, moral of the story, you're talking to number 203. I've qualified. I've got my race numbers. Fortunately, I'm going to miss the first race of the season to be in Europe, but we will be back on July 8th. It'll be my first official race, and you're going to be there to help me.
Yep, I will be.
Shovel the parts off the track or, hand me a trophy, one or the other. It's somewhere between those two.
That's it. You're either right at the edge or you're over the edge, right? So,
yeah. So looking forward to that. That'll be exciting. We'll keep you guys updated, along the lines of our play-by-play. I want to tell you guys at home how that was, what it was like to go through that. And we'll do that on a later podcast.
Sweet. Well, I think that's all I had for the week.
Yeah, I will say, I appreciate everybody that subscribed. I ask you one more time. It sure helps out if you'll subscribe on YouTube, follow JKMoto on Instagram. As Easton always says, you can find it everywhere on all your major podcasting sites.
You can Google it.
You can Google it, but any bit helps. We'd love the help. If you'll click that subscribe button and give us a listen, we appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks for being here. We'll see you again next week.
See ya.